Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me today for This Needs to Be Read. Today's book is A Son's Journey of His Italian Heritage, Cobblestones, Conversations, and Corks. Giovanni Ruscitti is here with me today, and before he joins the conversation, I'm intrigued whenever people have the time to write down their family story, and I wonder, have I missed some stories in my family, and it makes me reflect, starting with the family tree. Maybe you get together for a family reunion, or around the holidays you get with your family, and maybe you're gathering stories then, but there comes a time when those stories are more important than just, oh, my uncle or my aunt is telling that same story again. There is history in that. This story connected for me because not only am I dabbling in looking at my family history, the neighborhood I grew up in here in Charlotte, North Carolina, is working to become a historical district. And there's history right where I grew up. It's a walking museum. And so I'm thinking of my guest today and how he and his father walked through the streets where his father grew up and where his history was, and this was something they could do living, not something you hear later. And I always thought about history being something that happened before I existed, something I wasn't here for. And so I missed the opportunity to see that there was history around me. The neighborhood I grew up in is 75 years old, and that's just the name of the community, but it's hundreds of years old because there was another history before my neighborhood came along, but I'm not 75 years old. So right in the middle of my life, I'm discovering there's history all around me. So I'm excited about our guest today because it seems that more of us are really looking at life and making it matter and writing it down for others to embrace that. Welcome to the show, Giovanni. How are you?
Good morning, Catherine. That was an inspiring intro. Thank you very much for that.
Nailed it. Listen, I already marked the page that I wanted to go to in your book, and it's simply, somebody should write our story. And I think that's what I'm saying. I think that's what so many people are saying as they're wondering, where did I come from, whether they're doing a DNA test or if they're online searching or even in the library archives looking for history on where they came from, who are their people, all of these things that we're doing to search for our meaning of life. I think that chapter title there, Somebody Should Write Our Story, says it all for me. But let me shut up. I've enjoyed your book, and you have inspired me, and I was excited to get the opportunity to interview you. But talk to me about your process of putting this together. Was this something you wanted to do, and your dad inspired you to go ahead and do it, or tell us how this came about?
Yeah, and thank you for this opportunity, and I'm glad that this is touching you in the way that it has, and that was my hope. My parents were Italian immigrants from a small town in central Italy named Cansano, and it was a place that I never got a chance to visit until I was older. I was 46, and even though I was the first generation Italian American, I never really had that connection to the town. I was always too busy with my legal career, raising a family, or just life. But it was a big part of who I was, and you picked a chapter that's obviously a very personal chapter and one that is very emotional. But in 2019, I lost my oldest sister, Rena, and then my father died in July. And he was a fiercely proud person. He came to the United States with literally the shirt on his back, no education, couldn't speak English, couldn't write it, couldn't read it, nothing, and lived this remarkable story. Our country is filled with stories of ordinary people who lived extraordinary, inspiring lives, and my father was that person. But I didn't really get a chance to appreciate it until I was older. And on his deathbed, he said, as chapter 39 says, somebody should write our story. You should write a book about what we went through. And I said, hey, Dad, yeah, I'll do it. But I really, Catherine, had no concept of the ability to do it. I'd never written a book. But as 2020 hit, you said something in the intro that was so spot on, that so many people were looking to connect with who they are. And that was because I think of everything we went through in 2020, starting with COVID and then social unrest and then the election and then, all these mass shootings. Then we get into 2021 and it was just all this negative stuff. And so I just felt inspired to start writing down my dad's story. And I had no idea it was going to become a book at all. I thought I was just going to write something for him, a tribute to him. But as I went through the process, it became very kind of a spiritual process. And the story just told itself. And when I was done with it, I gave it to a couple of friends to read, and they're like, wow, your dad's story will impact a lot of people. And so I took it, the next step, and here we are. Now it's published. But I'm so grateful to hear what you said, that you were inspired by his story, because I think there are so many stories like that get lost. We focus so much on celebrities and politicians that we forget the stories about the ordinary person and what they did, because those are the people that built what we have in this country and everything that we should be so grateful for. So I was really honored to be able to tell his story. It was a great experience.
Well, you did an excellent job. Thank you. And yes, that chapter was emotional. It made me, I had a knot in my throat, and I was like, like, which part am I going to say? I had to stick with the title because I could feel, what's that like? I remember taking my mom to New York, to the street she grew up. She's still alive, but I was concerned, are you dying? Because this is kind of stuff you do, reminisce and a rush to go. And we're in Charlotte, North Carolina, so it's a 12-hour drive in the car. And then I was, nervous we weren't going to get along, because we don't get along, that often or for long periods of time in person. So how are we going to make a 12-hour car drive? And we did, there and back. I was holding my breath most of the way, but it was like, what do you want to see and experience? And to watch her reminisce, some things weren't there anymore. So she had to go on the memory of what used to be on this street and what she used to be able to do and see. And it became more important to me that she had that experience, because it wasn't mine, and she was revisiting places. And I was able to do that for her. So, just who are our parents, that humanity. So we do miss that, because we're looking at all the extraordinary people. And with that, we do miss the ordinary people, the right in your face, doing amazing things. You don't know what they overcame. I didn't think my mom was a little girl at one point. Where did she come from? She was always here. So seeing our parents as humans, having an experience just like we do, having struggles and overcoming them, achieving things and appreciating that and writing it down. Our time is up. But before we go, Giovanni, tell people where you would like for them to pick up a copy of your book, A Son's Journey of His Italian Heritage, Cobblestones, Conversations, and Corks.
Thank you again for having me, first off. You can pick up the book really anywhere books are sold, Amazon, Barnes & Noble. Some bookstores will be carrying it. You can also go to Radius Group, Book Group, and you can pick it up there. But Amazon's probably your best bet. Thank you again for having me. I really enjoyed my time this morning.
You're welcome. Much success on your book tour.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to This Needs to Be Said. I hope you've gained something from what has been shared. Send me your comments and show ideas through the website at tntbsmedia.com. I'd love to hear from you.